Welcome to Season 8 of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast with Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve. The biggest sci-fi podcast in the galaxy. We love talking all things science fiction, from film, television, and literature. Join our crew and find a seat quickly, because we're blasting into a universe filled with adventure and fun. All hailing frequencies are open for this week's episode of The Big Sci-Fi Podcast.
In the past, we here at the Big Sci-Fi Podcast have discussed the mashing of different genres into science fiction. And we did the fight film with real steel, and we did the Western with cowboys and aliens. So today, we are doing the baseball film with science fiction. Now, this has been done in the past, most notably with the DS9 episode Take Me Out to the Holodeck, which I recommend everyone should watch, where the DS9 team plays a baseball game against a team of Vulcans. It was kind of like the Bad News Bears versus the LA Dodgers, and I'm sure that episode will come up in our discussion. Now, the sci-fi movie that is the topic for this episode looks at both how baseball and science fiction can push forward the narrative of friendship, fear, distrust, love, hate, wickedness versus strength, loneliness, togetherness, skills, being at the right place at the right time, and how working together as a team can overcome the most dire of situations. Wow, for all that to be in one film, this must be the greatest film of all time. And that is the discussion in tonight's episode, where we ponder all this and a whole lot more in the classic 2005 Disney epic Chicken Little. Since baseball is a part of this film, I'm going to use the greatest comedy routine of all time in this opening, as done by Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. So without further ado...
Yeah, I love this. I know what's coming.
Let me introduce the members of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast in the updating of this classic comedy bit. Now, when Lou Costello wants to know the names of the players on his team, he asks Bud Abbott, "Who's on first?" The answer should have been Adina Manana. When Lou asks, "What's the name of the guy on second?" the answer is, without question, Brian Donahue. And as for third base, when Lou states, "I don't know who's at third," the real answer should have been Chris Fox. And as for the never asked question of who is the bat boy, well, that is me, Steve Merkin. Yet, since I'm 68, might I be the Batman? Well, that's for another discussion. But for today,
I'm Batman.
Let's talk.
I'm Spartacus.
Thank you, Brian. I was hoping you would say that.
You do not look miserable enough to be Batman. Not yet.
But I can do
Are you
the
talking about
voice
him
of
or me?
Steve. He needs to be grizzled and he's got to have
I've got to use the Batman voice.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of beard.
Voice. Yes. So, without further ado, let's talk about Chicken Little. And of course, always the first question is when was the first time you saw this movie?
About 2:00 this afternoon.
Excellent.
Yes. Watched it at 2:00 this afternoon. Had it on my wife's little phone. That's where our Disney Plus is currently housed.
Interesting.
Did a little work while watching it, and it made me laugh, Steve. It made me cry, and it made me smile. But there's a lot more to come. That's great. 2 this afternoon.
Adina, when did you first see this film?
A few days ago in preparation for this.
Okay.
Although when I was watching it, I definitely recognized a scene or two. So it must have been like on TV at some point in the years, and just flipping through, because sometimes I will just have Cartoon Network or the Disney Channel or something on. But first, can we have like a how to pronounce my last name session?
Did I say Mignona? Didn't I say it right?
You did not say, not even.
Oh,
that
my
was very, very not close. It's okay.
I'm
it's okay.
slipping
it's a hard
so
one.
bad.
It's a hard one.
I apologize.
We had to mention it because we've talked about it recently.
I know, it's funny. It's just funny.
Adina's face when you it was the last it was the last vow, I think. Steve is what
it's Mignona, just so everyone is clear. Yeah. And the best way to remember it is instead of think of the phrase mini Yoda. Like mini so Yoda. Think of like Grogu, which is a mini Yoda. So min instead of mini, min. Instead of Yoda, Yona. Min Yona. Mini Yoda, Mignona. There. Session of class over.
Steve, okay.
We still love you, Steve.
Everybody
still
remember this if you hear this after Trek Island.
Yes.
Before. I don't know when this is airing.
Chris,
when did you first see this? When did you see this movie the first time?
I feel like I saw it when it came out, but I barely remember. I remember not liking it a whole lot, and then I saw it last week, and very different feelings about it. Yeah. Same as Brian, I think. Yeah. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I saw it when the movie first came out in the theater in 3D, and I looked everywhere.
In 3D?
It was originally in 3D
back then?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
You mean when the movie came out? Okay.
Well, yeah, Chris, like in 2005.
Chris, I hate to tell you,
it was not a thing.
There was 3D in the 1950s, in the late 50s. That was a developing technology for black and white films.
John Wayne film The Searchers had a 3D version.
Sorry, let me just clarify. I'm not saying that I didn't know that 3D was around that time. I just meant like there was a resurgence of 3D in 2009 when Avatar came out. Then everything was 3D.
Right.
But yes, I do remember.
Yeah.
Or know of.
But
3D
what I was doing
glasses.
is I went looking everywhere because I know when we left the theater, they let us keep our 3D glasses, and they were the same green frame that Chicken Little wears in the movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Sweet.
And it was really.
Do you still have them?
I went looking. I couldn't find them. I know I kept a pair, but I can't seem to find them because I would have worn them for the today's, even though nobody would see that. But yes. But,
would have made us smile.
Okay. So, great. So I can see that the film had a really positive effect on everybody. And what did you think of the way the story went? I mean, when it opens up, it's not a science fiction film, but it morphs into it. Mm-hmm. So the first half is a film all about baseball. And it's very interesting because there's a lot of the DS9 episode in the baseball game. And if you look at the character of Rom, who was the unlucky guy in the story, he's like Chicken Little. Basically, just stand there at the plate. Don't swing. Mm-hmm. Don't do anything. And that's what Rom did, except the fact that his bat inadvertently made contact with the ball, and he was able to do what he goes, what's a bunt?
So
what's a bunt?
I saw that in your notes about making the comparison, and I guess I don't, other than that it happens to be baseball and Chicken Little happens to suck at the sport and Rom happened to suck at the sport, I didn't see any other parallel because to me, the baseball was relevant. It was more Chicken Little is looking for approval from his dad. Correct. And that's not what was going on in Deep Space Nine at all. And that, so I was not really seeing a deep.
But I think it was the underdog. If you look at it like in the end or like in the baseball game, in the end of like DS9, it's the big game. And it's like you have all the underdog tropes. So I feel like that's maybe how you can compare it. But I would say it's a very
interesting trope. The interesting trope is the looking for parental approval.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that the trope is necessarily interesting. I'm just saying like if you were to compare the two and you look at the game, you get that trope of, oh my gosh, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And they did it, even though they didn't really do it in DS9. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah. That's like very much the side story of the movie.
It's kind of the reverse because Rom wanted to show his son that he could do and he couldn't. And he accepted the fact that he couldn't do it. That's why he didn't play in the game. Again, that's why I knew that the episode would come up in the conversation. It's not a perfect comparison, but I when I was watching it, it just went right back to that episode of DS9 about, just
sure.
Sometimes you just, sometimes you're just lucky without even trying, and
also fun fact, he's also a semi-pro, the actor. How do you pronounce his last name? Max is a semi-pro baseball player, so I had to play left-handed for that episode. I always find that fascinating.
Exactly right. He purposely played left-handed so that he would suck.
Oh,
and
darn.
he did very good job of it. Yeah.
But Adina, you're right. I think what you're saying is like it's the vehicle maybe just to get him to that moment of approval from his dad, but like that's the main focus of the story, not so much the baseball.
Right, because it could have been any activity, any sport, it could have been anything. He's just looking for approval from his dad. But the thing I want to say though is when you, Steve, first told us, hey, I would like us to watch Chicken Little, I had absolutely, other than knowing the, the sky is falling, just from the classic, just knowing that, I knew nothing about this movie. And I was very confused. And again, either. I'm very happy to watch animated films. I love, kids animated films. So I was not complaining about watching it, but I was I'm like, how is this going to be fit into our sci-fi universe? And
it took a while.
It took a while. But also, I'm also someone who, especially when you guys say, hey, let's watch movie X for the podcast, I don't look at anything ahead of time. I don't even read the blurb of the movie. I'm okay to just go in completely cold and being like, what am I walking into? And it's okay. And I was pleasantly surprised because for a long time, I'm like, how is this a science fiction movie? I mean, it was cute and I was enjoying it, but I was very confused for a very long time. And then, and then the science fiction, when it happened, it was like it happened in a major way.
Yes, exactly. Which again, the interesting thing is the concept of cloaking devices and how they work and how it's done to avoid first contact. And for a long time, I didn't even think that was what was going on. I actually thought it was more like a Truman Show, ship in the bottle. That's what fell on him. Okay, I didn't really think that was part of a spaceship. I thought it was like, oh gosh, the sky is falling because they live in a bubble, or they live in some kind of environment. That was actually what I was expecting. So, but I'm glad it was what it turned out to be because it was super cute, especially the ending. Super cute. Yeah. It was kind of, I don't know. Again, when I went to go see it the first time, I didn't know either. We just went to go see it with the kids just to have fun and knowing knowing who the voice actors were, which were really a great collection of voice actors, as far as I'm concerned, who did this particular film.
Who were the voice actors, Steve?
Well, one was Zach. I never pronounce his name right. Braff.
Braff. Much simpler than my last name.
It's still difficult. For me, that is. What can I tell you? And he's best known for the TV show Scrubs.
Yes, love that show.
And then you had Steve Zahn. Zahn, see, again, there you go, Steve Zahn, who was in it, and he did a great job as...
I'm going to mess one up, and people are going to,
Yeah, it's okay.
Now that I'm on this kick, I'm going to mess one up.
And, oh my God...
Joan Cusack.
Joan Cusack, and you got it up there?
I'm thinking of people I mean, the great Don Knotts is married as the Mayor Turkey.
And even a guy named Sir Patrick Stewart was in it as well.
Wallace Shawn.
Wallace Shawn, the Grand Nagus himself, even though I know it's also Princess Bride. People know him from that. Probably
Fred
more
Willard.
from that.
Adam West.
Yes. Adam West, when I saw it and his voice was at the end of the film, made me smile because he has one of the greatest speaking voices of all time. Just to hear him talk, it's like it.
Yeah, he really does. He really does. And he's still, in my opinion, the greatest Batman. But I would digress. Catherine O'Hara. Come on. We mentioned Patrick Stewart. There's all kinds of people.
Yeah.
In this, Anne Lockhart,
Harry Shearer, although he's in like everything voice. I feel like he just does
he was
so
the
much.
voice of the announcer at the baseball game.
I was trying to place him. I'm like, I know that voice.
That's Harry.
It's so
you
familiar.
can always tell Harry's voice.
Holly Hunter.
Yeah,
is credited as being in this. So it's crazy.
It's like
it's cast.
it's like they put this movie together and they just went out and everyone who wanted to have fun said, I want to be a part of this, maybe. It's how I feel. It's like, because how do you assemble a cast like this, speaking cast like this for a children's animated film? Yes, I know. A little money thrown
they
out, but
offered
not
them the
always.
right amount of money.
Oh, they got some good money.
I didn't look at the production. Well, actually, the production cost was about
So
150.
according
Yeah.
to Wikipedia, it says 150 million.
Yeah.
Was the budget for this film. But I don't honestly track that enough to know, is that a lot for an animated film or not? I don't know.
I feel like that's a reasonable amount. I feel like generally speaking, movies are around 100 and 150 million.
And this was, I think,
like
one of Disney's first attempts at a fully computerized animated film.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Toy Story, the original Toy Story. So Toy Story came out 10 years earlier than
95,
that. 30 million. So for a point of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so it's another good animated movie.
Toy Story was an event. I remember going to that movie in the theater because it being all computer generized. That was an event at the movies that year for people to see and being amazed at it. I will say this, like, as far as actors in animated, there are some actors that just are not gonna make animated studio work. There are some actors that are just supremely gifted at that. Where you're doing voiceover or you're doing acting for an animated film or whatever. And so you don't see every actor doing animated films. I think you see a lot more than we used to. But remember The Prince of Egypt?
Yes, I love that movie.
Talk about Patrick Stewart being in it. Had Val Kilmer, had all Ralph Fiennes. It had a plethora of actors in it. And that movie was an event kind of because of that, of A-list actors all being in it. So I think we're seeing that more now than we used to. But
so Prince of Egypt, 1998, and it says the budget 60 to 70 million.
Yeah. So again, you can see that the cost of the production in computer animated films was getting greater and greater and greater as the technology got better and better and better. I get, Adina,
Frozen says Frozen's budget was 150 million also.
And that came out in what year?
2013.
That was 2013.
Okay, yeah.
So for some comparisons.
Okay, and that's what we're looking at is to, with half the film being devoted to baseball and half the film being devoted to science fiction, again, it was worth waiting to see, as you said, Adina, to do that transformation from one type of film to another type of film. And again, it's not just that. Is that this movie has a tremendous amount of heart to it, and I think you alluded that to Brian that there's a lot to this film.
I felt so deeply for Chicken Little. And all the bullying in the way he was being made fun of. I hated that fox. I hated that fox girl.
Oh yeah,
the baseball superstar who I just was like, and I don't hate easily, guys. But I found myself going, that little fox. She just needs to back away from Chicken Little, but also I think there is a level of, and as parents, Chris, one day you'll come to understand this more deeply. You can certainly sympathize with it, but when your kid comes home from school and they have experienced some sort of bullying on some level, whether it's low level, high level, or they've been made fun of even just once, someone said something to them, they come home, there's something that happens, at least in my daddy's heart, that is heartbroken. That is something we face. And this film kind of like brought that to life. It was very humorous. It was over the top in a lot of ways, but like I loved the whole dodgeball scene.
Yeah,
because that's how some kids feel. Dodgeball is the worst. It's when they get picked on the most.
Oh, I hate gym class. I hated dodgeball, all of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
when I was in elementary school, I was the last guy to get hit. Why? Because nobody cared about me because I was terrible. I was Chicken Little.
Oh,
But they would always
but-
go after the best people first. So yes, I understand that entirely.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
loved
was
it.
like
There-
it was
really popular kids over here and not popular kids over here.
Exactly.
Like,
that also bothered me. I was just like, it was kind of rough, and I know it's like not necessarily. I don't know if it's a teacher's job, but I just felt like they're not doing anything for this kid. They're not even trying to show
Right.
the slightest like, hey, maybe we shouldn't treat each other like garbage. So that was like, it was accurate, but it was like a rough start where I'm like, okay, Dylan and I
Yeah.
were just kind of like, it's funny, but we're ready for the turn to be like, okay, when does
Yes.
Chicken Little become awesome?
yes.
And so I was relieved when he
Exactly.
wins the game, and then people are like all excited
Chris,
about it.
I thought for sure, and I had to wait even past the next scene a little bit. I thought for sure Chicken Little was going to wake up in bed and it was all a dream. I thought for sure that was
Really?
a dream
Yeah.
sequence.
Huh.
Yeah. And then when it
That
wasn't,
would've-
I was like, okay, good. Yeah.
That would have been rough. I don't know if I could
I
have watched
know
the
it
rest of
would
the
have
movie at
been,
that
but
point.
I was like-
that would have been terrible. I think I'm glad
Yeah.
that was not like what happened, because that would have
Yeah,
been a terrible
just-
choice.
I was expecting it though, because
Yeah.
Interesting.
But again, it also is the effect of when his father loves him because now his father accepts him and gives him the attention he deserves because he accomplished something so great. But then when he experiences the sky is falling again and his father rejects him, it's like that was real. That to me, that's really hard. That's that's where this movie gets into some deep philosophical level, on that.
I
on
want to
that.
say something though, real quick.
Go ahead.
Watching this movie today helped me as a parent later on in the day
Really?
in how I reacted to my son. Because I think that as adults, we sometimes don't understand the influence we have over not just children and our own children, but people who are younger than us who might be watching us in some capacity. It could be at work, in a professional level, to where people are watching how we respond and learning about life from us. And I think that what Chicken Little and his father, their growth and learning and journey through this movie, was a lot of it. A lot of this film was slapstick, over the top, silly nonsense, right?
Sure.
Which is one reason we loved it. But it had some poignant moments where the father has to say, when Chicken Little finally is able to express himself in that movie theater, and the dad goes, "Son, I get it, but I didn't mean to do that." I think sometimes that's just real life. We don't mean to make our children feel a certain way. And so just this afternoon, I'm outside. My son had his first baseball practice of the season, by the way, Steve. You'll be happy to hear that.
I'm very proud. Very proud.
And so I was getting his bag and gear in the van, and he came inside to grab something else. And all of a sudden, I hear him kind of scream and then start crying. And I walk in the house, and he's holding his elbow, and he's just real upset. And I can see that we have this big painting right on the wall before you go into our kitchen. Beautiful painting, came from my grandmother. I admired this thing for years, and when she passed, we happened to be blessed with having this in our home. She wanted us to have it, and the painting had fallen down off the wall, had come off the frame even, and somehow it got Brody, and it scared the living daylights out of him and hurt him a little bit too. But he was really afraid that I would be mad that the painting was broken. And I'm telling you, I watched this movie and how the father and the son interacted a little bit, and it made me just kind of take a breath and go, Brody, I care about you way more than I do that painting. You're worth more to me than that painting is any day of the week. I'll throw that painting out tomorrow. You're just worth way more, And so I think that like even in an animated film, to be surprised, which we shouldn't be because a lot of art teaches us stuff anyways on all levels. That scene actually helped me take a chill pill with my son, where I could have been, oh, what did you do? Why did you do that? Oh my gosh, that pain from my grandmother. Would have done nothing to help my son understand his value and worth. And to me, and so it was just, I'm thankful for Chicken Little.
Well, but I think what we're seeing in Chicken Little, I think what is getting demonstrated there is you're seeing a parent who maybe he does unconditionally love his kid, but he is unable to show it. He has like zero ability to show it. He can only show it in a way that appears to make it conditional. And it's just sad because the thing is like, I'm not 100% sure that the dad figure really transformed. Like it still kind of seems a little conditional, at least on the surface. It seems a little conditional still at the end.
Even at the end, when Chicken Little is trying to save the moment, and his dad's like, "Don't, but I still love you, son. I still support you." You know, it's like he's forcing himself to. So, and again,
it's not that he doesn't love his son unconditionally, but he doesn't know how to show it for sure.
Correct.
I think that's the part of the lesson for me. Is I want to learn more and more, because I'm going to have moments where I mess up, where I don't do that for my son or my daughter or anybody in life, you know.
But moments are okay. I mean, like at the end of the day, I feel like you know, we all are going to have our bad moments. It's the overall where in Chicken Little, the dad, his base is consistently not showing unconditional love. And then he has moments of, you know, where we're opposite. I think we are generally showing our kids unconditional love, but we're going to have our bad days. And it's because of our base, our kids will be fine with our moments.
That's the thing is I even look back at my own daughters, and, you know, again, you know, with one that was born perfect and the other one that was not born perfect, and giving Jenny every ability and every chance to be successful and never holding her back, because her arms were shorter than every other kid's arm, and she stood out, and she was different, and different children like Chicken Little stand out amongst the group, but it also makes them stronger and tougher. And I'm getting choked up now. Sorry.
Yeah. I love how Chicken Little believed in himself. He had those, of course, you know, times where he was down, like, oh man, I just messed this up again, or I'm never going to please my dad. Because really, that's who he cared the most about pleasing, right? Making his dad proud. But I love that Chicken Little had fight in him. That he kept rebounding and coming back. And I love also that he had his own friend group like that. To me, I loved his little friend group in this film. The Big Pig, the Ugly Duck, you know, which I thought one of my favorite scenes is when he grabs her in the theater and says, "I really find you attractive."
That was satisfying.
You know?
and the little leg goes up as he's laying one on her.
That was cute.
Yes. But that's
nice that he's got friend, even though he's trying to win his dad's approval, he still has support from his friends. And actually, again, I love, you know, the Ugly Duckling character, Abby. I like Abby because she was like, she knew what was what, you know, and she's like, look, you gotta talk to your dad. You gotta talk to your dad. Talk to your dad. Talk to your dad. Talk to your dad. She knew, you know.
I also just felt so relieved when the others saw it, when the three of them saw the panel and like, okay, good. So they know, they've seen it. They know, they understand. Now
he's got some people now who knows he's not like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's when the movie transforms into this hilarious science fiction film with riffs on so many other science fiction films in it. I mean, you see War of the Worlds, you see E.T., you see Independence Day, even playing the music from Independence Day. And then, of course, it turns out to be an oops, sorry, our mistake. We didn't know. Oh, dear, you should have gotten that panel fixed a long time ago. Oh, I know, dear. Yeah. And can I do the big voice? I love the big voice.
Yeah, that was cute
awesome.
Resolution.
Yes.
And the fact that, hey, they weren't bad guys. They weren't trying to cause problems. They were just like, what were they there for? I forgot what
acorns.
Acorns, right.
Acorns.
Yes. They hit all the different planets, and the Earth has the best acorns, and they always come back there every summer to go pick up acorns because that's what their vacations are. But all that is so great. It's so funny. The tropes that the Star Trek tropes that are in, like at the end when the Adam West character is Chicken Little and he's wearing the green T-shirt that Kirk wore, or that type of thing. Like, okay, that's really cool. Like when that and in the movie comes and you're seeing the movie Chicken Little. It was sheer genius. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love how they ended it with, it's like you get the really cool, exciting movie. It's like a nice callback to the first movie that came out about his failure. Yeah, I felt very, very happy after the end of that.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just, this is one of those movies that it just makes you smile. Yes, it has the emotional level to it, but it makes you smile because in the end, nothing really happened. They didn't disintegrate everything. They just de-energized it or whatever.
I think so. I think it's something they were able to.
It's almost like right, because of that. I assume that they didn't actually disintegrate. It was like they were transporting them away somewhere, like transporting into some magical holding place, and then transported them back.
Right.
Yep.
That makes that work in my head.
And how many people have been on vacation and always had a little mishap along the way?
Oh, never.
Never a car breaking down, a tire going flat.
Well, and again, as that whole feeling of losing your kid on vacation. And what comes out. So like, I completely understand, like, bringing out all the big guns, literally, when you think your kid is missing, because we almost had that happen with my older son when he was 6. We were cruise, and so we were at one of the ports. And so some cruise lines, they kind of have like, when right off the port, they have like their own area where like their own swimming pools and stuff. So it's really just the one cruise boat or the 2 cruise boats. And so me and my family, and this is my extended family, we were all out there. And so we're just sitting at the pool. We're all there. My older son, Frank, he was 6 at the time, and he could swim. He was an independent swimmer. And so he was just swimming around in front of us. I'm talking to my sisters and their husband, everyone, and then literally blinked. And where's Frank? And the second I said it, my one sister, she knew the look I had. She knew. So the 2 of us got up and we started like shouting for Frank, saw the lifeguard, looked for the other cousins, like, did he run off to find you guys? And then then other people, the rest of my family clued in, because, turns out right behind us was like a little kid pool area. Frank had just gone right behind us and didn't tell us. And so this whole episode lasted like 3 minutes, longest 3 minutes of my life. And when I saw Frank, I have not, you talk about the big voice. Oh my gosh. I think I can count on half a hand the number of times in that 14-year-old's life I've had to bring out the big mama voice. So he was so upset with himself. He sat and hid under like a towel for like the next hour.
Yep. That's terrifying as a kid.
So right. No,
being on the other end
terrifying
of that,
as a kid to be on the other end. Your mom, like seriously, I grabbed him and I was just like, you have
to tell me where you're going.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
So again, I understand the parents, where's my kid? I will bring out any and all things at my disposal to find my kid right now.
Yep. No, that happened
Totally
to us one time when we were in shopping one time at that time was Macy's, and Stephanie, she was probably about 5 years old or so, and she went one way and we didn't see where she went, And we literally were starting to think, is she going to end up on a milk carton? I mean, we were that concerned.
Yeah.
And then someone came over and said, there's a little girl over here. She's crying. And there she was. And it was like, oh, my God, thank you.
I was at an amusement park, Cedar Point, the roller coaster capital of the world, America's coastline. We were at a barbecue restaurant in the very middle of this park. The more roller coasters in this park than anywhere else in the world, all close together. Thousands upon thousands of people there. And we leave our kids with Grandpa at the table while me, my wife, and my sister-in-law go in to order the food, right? I come back out, and the kids are nowhere to be found, and Grandpa's sitting there, people watching.
Oh.
And so I said, so where are the kids? And he goes, they went to get mustard. I said, that's interesting because they hate mustard. He said, I don't know. They asked if they could go get mustard. And I was like, which direction did they go? And he pointed that away, and I went that away. All through the restaurant, all around the restaurant, no sign of them. I mean, zero sign of them. My wife and sister-in-law come out. Where are the kids? And I said, your dad said mustard. And they both went, they hate mustard. God. So we started going, what has happened? Security guards come. They kind of just follow us around. They never press their buttons on the thing, and say, hey, look out for this kid. Here's a description, And we're running around, my wife, my sister-in-law, and I. My father-in-law sitting down in the restaurant in case they come back. And I'm telling you, there was about 5 minutes where I thought I was never going to see my kids again.
Yeah, that thought. Devin, is this really happening? Yes.
Devin goes farther down one particular direction than I did, and she hears them yelling, Mommy, Mommy. They were on a ride about 100 yards away from the restaurant called Monster.
They went on it on their own.
They went to ride this ride, which is a ride appropriate for them to ride on their own. I enjoy riding it with them, though. But they went on their own. They asked Grandpa if they could go ride Monster while they waited for the food because the line was short. And he heard mustard. And so we made sure Grandpa knew that they do not like mustard. And he needs to bring his hearing aids when he comes with us places. But we found them, and I'm telling you, that's the first time as a parent, and this was 2 years ago now, maybe, where I thought, my God, they could be anywhere now.
Yeah.
So the point, Chris, is you're going to have these stories too someday.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
fun, buddy.
They're the stories that wind up like ours, where everything is actually fine. You just have 2 minutes or 5 minutes of terror where you're like, is this really happening to me? And then everything's fine.
And we got a flat tire. Someone slashed our tire too.
Oh no!
And we left the park about 11:30, and we had to deal with putting a spare on and driving and pouring down rain in a spare going 35 miles an hour. A car ride that should have taken 2 hours took almost 4 hours. So anyways, I digress again. I'm sorry.
But the point is so back to Chicken Little is that whole scene where the parents went completely ballistic, and it seems like they went over the top. No, seriously, they seriously did not. It was not an over the top reaction to losing their kid.
It's the worst thing that could happen to me.
Yes. Yes.
Look what this film has brought out in us. The stories we've shared, the feelings we've gotten. This movie works on those levels.
It's like such a deep. The best animated movies do this, where they can get you it can make you laugh. It's all the funny slapstick, but it also makes you think and get emotional. That's like the best kind of movie.
And it's not the longest movie ever either. Which I was kind of right. It was like 81 minutes. It was less than an hour and a half.
Yeah, which is perfect. I think
it had a lot in it for an hour and a half.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah. Well paced.
And
Yeah.
Brian, since the soundtrack, did you listen to it? I know you're watching for the phone, but
it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but I think it worked for the film just fine. I had no problems with it.
When I looked up the credits of this composer, John Debney, he's done a tremendous amount of films. Yeah. It's I'm like, that was him. It's quite amazing what he's done. So I enjoy the music, and I think it adds to the action. I mean, during the attack, the music was very powerful and strong and terrifying, and I think it, in its own right, it's not one of those soundtracks to me where I didn't listen to it because it was there but just didn't matter. I think it added to the film. But
how can you go wrong with Bare Naked Ladies?
Yeah, that's right.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
the band. I mean the band, everybody. Just clarifying.
Yes,
okay.
of course.
A Big Bang Theory.
Okay, we're talking
If I Had
music.
$1 million.
Yes.
Yep.
But no, but that's the other thing is that songs were also an integral part of this film, which made it funnier, especially with the pig, singing all the "Staying Alive."
Yeah, that was good.
Like that. It adds to the film. It really
Tell
does.
me what you want, what you really, really want.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like when they bring in pop culture songs into films like this. I find that very fun.
Well, I think that was the appeal of Shrek films. Was that also?
Oh yeah, Shrek nailed it.
There were a lot of appeals of Shrek films. That was just one of them.
Right. Yes, of course. Yes.
The original Shrek.
Yes.
That might be
For me,
my
it's Shrek 2.
That's top. I like them all. I watch all the Shrek movies, but that first Shrek film.
Yep.
I always held in my heart Toy Story. As kind of very high the top as far as just, especially for adults.
I'll take Shrek over Toy Story.
I do too now.
Shrek over Toy Story.
But that's what I was trying to say. I just took forever to get there.
I like Toy Story. Don't get me wrong. I like Toy Story, but I'll take Shrek over that. I think I will take Finding Nemo over both, maybe.
Interesting.
Finding Nemo and Shrek may be on the same for me.
The one that I've always enjoyed, and we're going off on another tangent. Thank you for doing it.
Let's train.
Disney's Hercules. Have you ever seen that one?
I feel like I've seen
it as a kid, but I need to
watch it. It is hilarious, especially the scene where Hercules and his trainer are walking down the streets of some Greek city, and a chariot almost hits him, and the voice of Danny DeVito as his trainer going, "Hey, I'm walking here." And I'm going, "Oh my God, a reference from Midnight Cowboy in a Disney film? That is genius." Yes. That's another one I thoroughly recommend is Disney's Hercules. It's underrated,
adding
but
it to the
very,
list.
very funny. I think we've expounded as much as we can about this film. Are there any other thoughts or that you want to share about it?
I love it, Steve, when I'm pleasantly surprised by films. And if I had to guess, I think that happens more for me with the animated genre. Because I love animated films geared towards kids for sure, but that have stuff in it for mom and dad to really enjoy and find humorous. I think a lot of animated films, at least some of them, really do that well. I think of The Incredibles. Is a great kind of example of that. My kids adore. I mean, even the Despicable Me movies.
Oh yeah, they're fun too.
Love
tons
those.
of stuff I'm laughing at that my kids aren't necessarily laughing at.
The Lego movie.
The Lego movie is great.
I love the Lego movie.
It's cute. It's cute.
But anyway, so you guys get so I was pleasantly surprised by this film, and thanks for having us watch it, Steve.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I always enjoy animated films, but I find I have to kick my feet a little bit because I much prefer live action. So I felt like this is there's been a lot of ones where I'm like, I'm not really in the mood. But then once I start it, like Chicken Little, once I started, it's like, okay, now I'm in. I'm invested. But there's always a bit of I kind of feel like live action right now. But so I always feel I'm always surprised when I'm like, oh, this is actually not that it's going to be bad, but when I get into it super quickly, and then just the way it started, I was invested in Chicken Little's story and like, okay, how is he going to overcome this, and how is he going to get to the point where he can prove that hey, he actually was doing the right thing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
wasn't
so
crazy.
overall, a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I like the term that Brian used in that being pleasantly surprised by this film, especially because I think my expectation was originally just set by the title and just knowing the story, the sky is falling story, and not really thinking that they would have done anything more interesting beyond that. So I think just the title of it kept me from ever really having any interest or thinking deeply about wanting to watch this film. But in general, I love, animated films. I mean, when you say about watching them as a parent with your kid, I mean, like Finding Nemo, I owned that and saw it in the theater and long before I was a parent. And several. I mean, I had Toy Story, several too, but definitely Finding Nemo. So once, and even Wall-E. I love Wall-E so much. So before, I was a fan of these and would watch these without kids, and I still will. My kids don't want to watch, but I liked what you said. Pleasantly surprised is absolutely, because I probably never would have watched it if you hadn't, Steve, said, "Hey, let's watch this film." And I'm glad.
That was a risk, as I put it up and I thought about it, and I know half this movie is not a science fiction film, but I know it gets into it at the end, and I'm very happy you all felt that way, because that's exactly how I felt about this movie when I first saw it. It was like, I didn't know what to expect from it. I didn't know that it was going to go in this direction. And I was pleasantly surprised in the outcome of the film and the amount of true heart it has. And like I said, it touches on so many very visceral and personal subjects, and it works in so many levels. And I'm it's one of those movies, like, I'm glad it came out. I'm glad it was made, and kudos to those people who put it together. And just
these are
great.
the movies we need more of.
Yes, we do. Both live action and animated.
Yeah, whether it's
for sure.
Yeah, exactly right. So I'm going to close by saying, using the Brian Donahue 5-star rating system, copyright Brian Donahue, how many stars would you give this film? 1 out of 5?
You talking to me?
You're the only one here.
You talking
to me?
Taxi driver?
What are we, taxi drivers now? Is this Taxi Driver? You talking to me?
Oh, it is Taxi Driver.
So I think this is tough, Steve, because I really like the film. But when comparing it to other great animated films, I'm going to give it, we're talking out of 5 stars, right?
Yes,
I'm going to give it 2.5 stars.
Okay.
And it's a very enthusiastic.
Really? Wow.
Your review of it sounds like
I was ready to rate it like half a star. And so 2.5 stars is a big jump, guys.
Are you kidding? Seriously?
Yeah, because you're like the way you spoke about it sounds like a 4 out of 5 or a 4.5.
No,
I'm
maybe
so
a 3,
now.
maybe a 3 at the most.
Very confused.
Maybe 3 out of 5. Let's go 3 out of 5. You guys just peer pressured me to raise it a bit.
And we did not hold a gun to your head, isn't it?
But Adina was.
But you said so many glowing things.
Yeah,
and
you made it sound.
You said like nothing negative about this film.
Listen, I think Star Trek V: The Final Frontier is super fun to watch. I'm not going to rate it.
I do like watching
more
it
than
a
3 out of 5 stars, though. I will rave about Star Trek V and talk about all the good stuff, and still only rated a 3. So I think I'm kind of glad I surprised you, because that's just kind of fun
about this system now.
And I'm glad I confused you too. Just for the fun of it. But yeah, so let's go 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Very enthusiastic. I was surprised by this film. I think it's got a lot of great stuff in it. But when you compare it to other great animated films, I don't know if we'll be talking about this one like we might the Lion Kings or the Toy Stories or Shreks in 10 years. You know what I mean? So
okay. All right.
that's my reasoning. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Okay.
Chris, you want to go next?
Am I still allowed to be on the podcast?
Of course you are. We love
Yes, but I'm
you.
rethinking my life choices. With how I rate films now.
This is hard because I can see what Brian's saying, that Chicken Little is not on the same level, like the same classic level of Toy Story or any of the other animated classics. But I still, for me, feel like it's a 4.5 because if you're rating it by what was the movie trying to achieve, it nails it. It's trying to achieve a funny, heartfelt story with a unique science fiction twist. So I'm going to say maybe 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4.5. I enjoyed it a lot. It's not my favorite movie ever, but it achieved what it was trying to do. Yeah. And it hit all those things, and I was a lot more engaged than I expected. Even though I think The Final Frontier is a worse movie, I'm still going to watch that all the time because I enjoy it. I enjoy it more. But I think if I'm just looking at how they say. What, sorry?
I can say with the basis we always go with, it's, would you watch this movie again and again and again?
That's what I do. That to me is that's for me a 5. A 5 is a movie that it's both great and I would watch it again 1,000 times.
Yeah, see, it's harder because there's a lot of movies now where I think are like amazing movies that I would give a 4 or 4.5, but I just find movies generally now, I don't tend to rewatch them like I watch older movies that I grew up with or even that I saw maybe 10 years ago. So it's always hard, but what?
I was going to say, one of the reasons I think that's true, at least for me, is more modern movies are just longer. And it's just annoying to like I can rewatch the original Star Wars ad infinitum because it's also like a 90-minute movie. Where a lot of modern movies that are 2.5 hours, 3 hours,
getting to 3 and more.
Yeah, just like like I just don't want to spend the time.
Like I heard,
maybe I'll leave them on the background, but like,
what's the? There was a Flower movie by Martin Scorsese. And Leonardo DiCaprio was in it, and it came out a few years ago, like Wild Wallflower or something. I can't think of the name, but when I heard that the runtime was like 3.5 hours or 3 hours, I was like, okay, that's too much.
Yeah.
Why do you think they call the film The Brutalist? Because it goes for like almost 4 hours.
Wow, jeez.
And there's your joke.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's hard. So going back to the review, it's hard because it's not. And I do try to rate it like how many times would I rewatch it. But it just achieves it was such a good movie and I really enjoyed it, but I don't feel the need to rewatch it, even though I would still stick with my 4 or 4.5.
Here's the genius. Here's the genius of the 5-star rating system. It's up to your discretion. See, I don't rate a film 4 or 5 based on, and it's cool that like Adina, you mentioned that's one way you rate films with the 4 or 5 is how am I going to watch this again, perhaps over and over through the years. To me, I'll rate a film that I think was fantastic, but I'm never going to watch it again. I'll still rate it a 5. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
This is the genius of it, is if I can toot my own horn. And really, Steve does that mostly when we talk about the 5-star rating system. I love it, Steve.
Hey.
But like it is, it's like art. It's so objective to who we are, or is it subjective to what we like, to what we like, what resonates with us? Is sometimes even just in that moment, we might find something impacts us, but then a few years down the road go, why did I ever watch that thing? Or why did I ever like that piece of art? It's a beautiful thing about it. So Chris, I respect your opinion. Adina, I'm going to respect your opinion. Steve, I'm going to respect your opinion. And I'm not going to argue with you about your number like you guys
I'm not arguing. I'm surprised. I was surprised. It was not an argument. It was you expressed it. But so here's I think how I will break down the 5 stars. Here's my interpretation of at least how I view it. Okay, there's like 2 qualities that I'm kind of rating side by side, sort of. It's like, do I think the movie is it good? Like, does it have good characters, good plot, good writing, good stuff? And the watchability. Like, do I want to watch it again? Like, is it then, and those two might not necessarily be equal. Just because something could be completely a great movie, but I'm probably not going to watch it again. Versus there might be a movie and it might not be the best, but just something about it I think I'm just going to love it.
Yeah.
So if a movie has both of those qualities in spades, where it is both awesome movie and something I want to rewatch, to me, that's the 5.
Okay.
A 4 is it's like top in one of those two qualities.
Okay.
And then it kind of goes down from there, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'm putting this movie kind of as a 4.
Okay.
Where I think it's a really good movie. And maybe I kind of might want to watch it. I could certainly watch it again. If it happens to be, I'm flipping through channels on the TV and it happens to be on, I wouldn't necessarily turn away or turn it off. So I'm putting this in the 4 category.
Cool.
Can I put mine to
All
4? I feel bad now that I've said
Don't feel
4.5. But
No.
I'm going to actually
I don't feel bad.
probably
No.
say 4 makes sense, like going by that logic, because it's
You
very
don't have
much
to go by my logic.
yeah.
No.
My logic is my logic. Doesn't
That's
have to be
But
your
if
logic.
if it resonates with you though,
Yeah.
Chris,
I think
that's
I'm gonna say it's a 4. A very, very great movie.
Okay.
by the end of the
using that
podcast, I'm
idea.
going to get you down to a 3.
No.
That's your goal.
Don't whittle him down, Brian. Stop that. So I'm going to give this movie also a 4 because I think that's a legitimate number for this movie. I haven't watched it for years. I do own the DVD of it, and I bought it years ago so we could have it at the house before Disney Plus existed, and you could watch it on demand when you'd like to. But I give it a 4 as well because to me, a great movie is one where you anticipate the scenes that are coming up because you're looking forward to seeing them again. And they make you happy when you see them again. You get that same feeling of either humor or sorrow or anticipation or completion where the character does whatever they were supposed to do. That's why I love Rogue One, because there are so many scenes that I look forward to seeing when they happen, and it's so good. Or Star Trek First Contact, the same thing. There are scenes that you just like, I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen. And when it happens, you go, I still feel good about it. It still makes me feel good about it. And to me, that's where a 5 kicks in, is that it's something that makes you look forward to. Now, to be honest, I'm rewatching For All Mankind, and I'm watching it with Elaine. She didn't watch it when I watched it, and I'm seeing it again, going, God, this is a good show, because the scenes that are in it, when they show up again, I feel good about it, And so to me, that's where it is. So yeah, I mean, that's the beauty. That's why the Brian Donahue, not just your average Google 5-star or Yelp 5-star. Those things suck in comparison to the Brian Donahue 5-star rating system, because it gets you down to the meat of what it is. And there's also something interesting, is that also whenever there's a certain bit on Stephen Colbert's Late Night where he does 15 questions to learn about who a person is. And one of the questions always is, what is the one song you could listen to for the rest of your life? And that's always, and so the same thing I guess can apply to us is, if there's one movie you can watch for the rest of your life, since we talk about movies or TV shows, ponder that. And that would be your 5-star, is the one that you could watch.
I'm trying to think of the song.
Star
I
Trek
can do
4.
movie,
Yeah,
Star Trek 4 I can
that's
do.
easy.
That's not an issue. But the song, it changes
hard.
every year in terms of like, there's songs I'll like for example, the last. I need to hear the origin story of Steve's dislike. I'm hoping that'll be a conversation on our Long Island drive. But like,
something
right now, what?
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say, today I was doing yard work and I was listening to my 60s throwback radio station, and they played Magic Carpet Ride by
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. And it took me right back to the movie. And so I'm going, this is a
Not
song
back to the 1960s, but back to the Star Trek film.
not back to the 1960s. Oh, I did. I was there when it came, but it takes me back to that moment in First Contact that makes me like, this is a great song. It really is, because it's associated with that. And Brian, I think I even said something you had done, a song that you had recorded and posted on Facebook, which is my all-time favorite song, the song I could listen to the rest of my life, Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is, to me, the one song that if you ask me what I could listen to for the rest of my life, that's the song.
Well, so I guess someone needs, this is now massively in tangent land at the end of our episode, but what do you mean when you say can listen to for the rest of your life? Does that mean that is the only song you're listening to? Does that mean you're listening to it every day?
No, it's not the one. No, that's, I think that's what Stephen Colbert gets. He goes, it doesn't mean you have to listen to it every day, but if there was one song that you could do that to or would do that to.
Like your favorite all-time song.
All-time song.
Yeah. I don't know, but like, for example, like classic rock, even though I wasn't there in the 60s, I have been listening to classic rock my entire life. It is definitely my top genre. So there are songs. And so my playlist, it's like a random shuffle of all the quote things I've liked. So tons of classic rock songs come up every single day. And I'm constantly happy to listen, listen to the suite of songs. And I've been listening to them. I'm 50 years old. I've been listening to them for pretty much 50 years. And I imagine I will still continue to listen to them. So I don't know. I mean, there's lots of them. There's not just one. There's a lot of songs that I listen to and I will happily continue to listen to. I don't know. I feel like that's why that's weird.
I will say for the last 2 years, I think, probably that song would be I Want to Know What Love Is. Like that I've just been blasting.
Really? Oh, it's a beautiful song.
Obviously I've got other songs that I go to, but it's always on my playlist, and it's always one that I'll go to, or if I'm in the shower, it's like, okay, I need to get that. I try not to play it so much if I'm at home because I know Dill hears a lot. He hears all of my songs, but it's definitely one that I feel like I probably have played most over the last 2 years, and I listen to music all the time. And for me, it's primarily... Pardon?
No, go ahead. Finish your...
Oh, yeah. It's primarily 80s pop, I would say.
Okay.
That's where my music is.
I have two things I'd like to say briefly. There's something that happens inside of me when I hear Elton John's Don't Go Breaking My Heart. There's just something that happens. Yeah, that just happens. I can't help it. I just smile. And
so you were smiling at the end of this movie, then.
but also we have chickens, don't you know, in our backyard, and they're out at the back of our property where the chicken coop is, and our kids rotate weeks to letting them out of the coop, making sure the coop's clean, and getting the eggs out and all that stuff, and then closing them up at the end of the day. Well, my son will often wear our big mud boots. My wife's big mud boots are mine. And today he's putting them away and he's walking back slowly, but he'll stop and then pop. And then his foot's coming out this way. And he's got these huge, massive boots on, for his size. And then he starts doing something with his shoulders and his arms. And he's got the chicken bucket with the food scraps out there. It's hilarious. And he's taking his sweet time. And we finally ask him, what were you doing? He goes, oh, I was trying to do Thriller. I was trying to do an MJ movie. And I'm like, hilarious, man. I wish the other neighbors could have seen you doing that because it was super fantastic. But anyway.
Just to close about this music, I was at an event where the actor Bill Paxton was there from Aliens and so on. And I never had, I didn't bring myself to walk up to him and say, thank you for your 80s band, Martini Ranch. They're one of my favorite all-time pieces of
about them, yeah.
And I loved it, and I missed out saying thank you to him for that, because it's one of those things that and they only had one album, that was it, but it always touches me. So that's the beauty of the 5-star system. It allows us to analyze what brings you to 5 stars, and that's the magic of it. So with that, I say, take me out to the theater, folks. That's a wrap on the 9-inning discussion of Chicken Little. Did this movie hit it out of the ballpark for you, or was it a shutout game? You can give us your box scores by commenting on Facebook, Instagram, or sending us an email to the Big Sci-Fi Podcast at gmail.com. A positive comment helps to move us up the ratings and maybe that World Series moment. And as always, I leave you with these parting words. Look to the skies, live long and prosper.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. If you're having fun and enjoying the podcast, we ask that you would share the love by liking, following, subscribing, rating, and writing a review for us. That helps get our podcast in front of more potential listeners. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Once again, we're a part of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, and you can find our podcast along with other fantastic podcasts by visiting trekgeeks.com. Coconut.